What's up, everyone, and welcome to a special collaborative presentation of two shows, both presented by Old City Sports Network, the best network for all your Philadelphia sports-based needs. My name is Michael Roscoe, and I am the host of Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast, with our co-host, the host of the Let's Be Frank show, Frankie Mattis. Thanks for joining.
What's going on, Michael? How are you?
Doing pretty well, doing pretty well. A little shaky after that game, but we'll go into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
And tonight we're going to do a special live collaboration of our shows and do a little bit of talking about the game, very briefly, because I know we talk about that on our own show. So I don't want to take away too much content from those. I know we'll be uploading some episodes this week. But we want to do like a 3/4 of the way season rookie report card, along with a little bit of chatter about this Carolina Philadelphia game. Frankie and I have taken a look at each of the rookies and their performances so far, and we're going to give them a grade and some reasons why. But before we get into all that, both Second and 15 and Let's Be Frank are brought to you by Righteous Felon Craft Jerky. Use our promo code OCSN for 15% off the best jerky around. Any orders over $50 will get free shipping. We're also brought to you by Warlord Beard Oil. Use promo code OLDSPORTS. Using our link on the website, www.warlordbeardoil.com/oldsports for 15% off your beard oils, washes, soaps, and more. Orders over $75 will get you free shipping. We are also brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the app and use our promo code Old City Sports Network, all one word, for $20 off of your first purchase. We got a couple new sponsors that we want to share, including Robert Hang Holt Construction. If you're in the greater Philadelphia region and need some work done with your roof, windows, sidings, deck, whatever you need, call the #1 contractor in the area at 610-348-1066 and get a free estimate today. We're also brought to you by Decals by Aaron. For all your Delco products and merchandise, your #1 spot for everything Delco. That's Decals by Aaron. And finally, we are brought to you by Iron and Steel Threads. Use promo code OldCity10 for 10% off the complete website, and a portion of these proceeds will go to youth hockey organizations. And don't forget to check out our website, oldcitysports.com, not only to access all of these shows, but to access some of our awesome merch. We got hoodies, shirts, glassware, camping materials, whatever you need, we got it all. All right, so we're going to start, I think, with the game real quick. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia and the Carolina game. Let me get your opinion, Frankie, on this. Obviously, there was a huge difference between how we played against Baltimore versus how we played against Carolina. A lot of people are talking about the offense and kind of like what went wrong. Not necessarily what went wrong, but like kind of what went wrong. What do you think was going on with the offense in this game?
It's interesting because you look at this game and a part of me thinks, did they play down to their competition? They just got their biggest win of the year against the Ravens, and then you got to go and play the woeful 3-9 Panthers team. It's hard to get up for a game like that, especially when you're a 2-touchdown favorite, and it's also sandwiched in between not only the Ravens game but the Steelers game. But a part of me sees some lingering issues throughout the year, and I got to tell you, Michael, this first quarter offense is really frustrating. And
You don't
there's
have to tell me twice.
yeah, it's kind of no excuse for it. And listen, like I understand, I've tried to contextualize it, like thinking that they're sort of like Floyd Mayweather was in his boxing career, where he would take some rounds off early on, and collect data, and then really impose his will later in the fight. And like with the Eagles offense, they like to wear on you in the fourth quarter. And I think there could be some truth to that. But it's like you have AJ, you have Devontae, you have Barkley, you have Hurts and his ability. Like you should want to put defenses on eggshells immediately. You want to obviously feed Barkley, and then you want to implement, AJ Brown as much as you can, especially going up against a bottom 5 passing defense in the Panthers. And I kind of don't blame AJ because it's one thing. Obviously, wide receivers want the ball, but when that the ball could be there for you and you're wide open. I can sense his frustration, and I think it's a combination of two things. I think the play calling isn't great. A lot of weird plays, getting Dotson involved early on, which I don't really understand. You want to stick to the basics, get you obviously want to get Barkley going, but this was a game for AJ to eat, going up against the weak secondary. If I was Jalen, I would have been licking my chops, but he struggled in the game. And, I think he's a slow starter as well. That's the other issue. And, I understand, it kind of, if you watch him play, you kind of get that sense. But at some point, it's like you want to put these defenses on eggshells. You want to get AJ involved, and then obviously feed Barkley. But then when they have to key in on those two guys, then you get Devontae going, and then that's when you get a guy like Jahan Dotson going, when they have to account for them, and then go back to running the ball late in the game. So they really got to him and Kellen Moore, I think, really got to come together and figure out how to script these plays because I think they're leaving a lot of meat on the bone. And if they can get this pass offense going, I think they could easily be the best team in the NFL. But I think that's what's holding them back.
Nah, I totally agree. I think so. To put it in perspective, Devontae Smith and AJ Brown had a combined 10 targets. Adam Thielen had 11 targets by himself. Something is wrong with that. Adam Thielen, he's Lord knows how many years old. He's been in the league for forever. It doesn't make sense. I understand we're playing against a literal dead last run defense in the Carolina Panthers, and the overall pass defense, I think, was like 22nd ranked or something like that. So I understand the desire to run the ball, but even then, you don't even run Saquon that much. I know in the first quarter, he had some equipment issues, so you had to take him off the sideline for a little bit. I get that. Totally understand. Shit happens. But you got to get something going. You got to get something going early. We've had this pattern of first quarter struggles for too damn long. I'm glad we've started to adjust it after the first quarter as opposed to going into the half. I know that was a thing for us for a while, is that we didn't make those adjustments until we got into the second half. The fact that we are being able to make these adjustments in the first half, whether it be early or late in the second quarter, is better than having to go off the field feeling disgruntled, discouraged, and then try to pull things out of your ass in the second quarter. But anyway, yeah, that I attribute it to a couple of things. Kind of agree with you with the play calling. You gotta target your number ones. I understand that it's predictable that they're gonna go and target AJ Brown. Everyone knows AJ Brown would have fed at this game. I get that, but in one-on-one coverage, he's like one of the best wide receivers in the league. He's
Exactly.
big, he's physical, he's like 200 something pounds. He's winning those one-on-one matchups, and he's getting yards after contact like crazy. There's no reason to not be targeting him for an entire quarter. And then second off, you have that, if there are situations where they're maybe just outside of the red zone, but you have Devontae Smith, who has been our red zone target. You miss him on like an inside route. You hit Grant Calcaterra, great for the touchdown. But there's been other situations where, that could have gained us yardage across the field, get us into first down territory. Not having us be able to make Jake Elliott try a 52-yard field goal, which he inevitably missed. That's a whole other conversation about him. 0 for 5 in 50-plus yard field goals. That was like a cakewalk for him over the past 2 years, and something's gone wrong like that. But I think, Jalen, he's been criticized for his pass game before. I totally understand why. He's definitely got to be not hesitant to get that ball out. There was a play where there was 3 clear open wide receivers, 2 of them running inside routes, 1 outside hitch, and they had at least 5 yards distance between them and the receiver. That's rare to get that much separation with that many receivers at once. And he scrambled and threw it away. That decision making doesn't make sense to me. It's not clear. It's not, logical. You have somebody open. I get that you don't want to throw an interception because last year you were deemed like the turnover king. I get that. But you've been on a streak of only having 2 giveaways in 8, 9 games now?
Yeah. I mean, you got to let it rip, man. And they're open guys. You have AJ and Devontae, who, I mean, if you were the Panthers, I mean, they would absolutely do anything to have those 2 guys. I mean, you can scheme those guys open, like they do their thing, and you just gotta trust them, And like I'm with you, man. Like it doesn't make any sense, and I think they're leaving meat on the bone.
Yeah, definitely. Meat on the bone, points on the board. And we pull off the win. I'm not gonna bitch about it completely because we did pull off the win, and in a fashion that we are used to from what we saw last year. But yes, this is a game where we should have dominated. We're 2 touchdown favorites. I blame that bettor in Kentucky who bet $3.1 million, $3.1 million on the Eagles to win. Now the payout was, I say only $400,000. Like I got that kind of fuck around money, but in relation to how much that is being bet, that is comparatively nothing.
Yeah.
But if I bet there was too many people betting on a Saquon Barkley touchdown to where even if the Eagles had won, they probably would have made their money back by betting on Saquon touchdowns, which he didn't get. So he still got 124 yards,
Yeah.
which is great. But one thing that was really intriguing was the defense. Do you have anything for me about the defense on that?
Yeah, you want to talk? I mean, there's a lot of people that have kind of given them a pass, but and you could argue they only gave up 16 points. I mean, you want to talk about bending and not breaking. I mean, they really bent throughout the entire game. The frustrating thing was they just couldn't get off the field on third down, couldn't get off the field on fourth down, and the D line was getting dominated by that Panthers offensive line. Now the Panthers put a lot of money in the offseason in that offensive line. It's paid off. They actually, I mean, they have a foundation there, and Chuba Hubbard was having his way, but you got to get off the field on third down, and it looked very reminiscent of last year, and it's something that this defense has really shored up in 1 year. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of what I saw, in talking to you last night. I think it was one of Cooper DeJean's weaker performances. Obviously we're going to get into him later on, but yeah, he struggled a bit in this game, and. It was interesting. Darius Slay was no play Slay for the first 3 quarters, but he did come up huge in that fourth quarter. So credit to him for
When
that.
it mattered, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of people probably saying, this is probably going to be it for him, but and who knows? Obviously there's still football left to play, but it's good to see him kind of play like he used to play at least for a quarter, and kind of show everybody like, hey, I still got it. So it was good there. I mean, Zach Bond was doing his thing. I thought he was pretty good throughout the game, but that Eagles D line kind of got worked a bit, and that secondary. Obviously they were undermanned with Reed Blankenship being out, but they, for the most part, struggled throughout the game, and yeah. It was you could argue it was a bend don't break, but it was kind of frustrating to watch, and they
Yeah.
got off the field easier.
And Chris in the chat makes a good point. The defense was missing Reed Blankenship. If it's not Bond making tackles, it's Reed Blankenship. Reed is in his name. He can read a defense really well. He's made these incredible, weird ass diving interceptions that are all like virtually identical. Missing him on the field was a huge impact. Obviously, like I said, we got the win. We left it to a 16-point margin. That's about the average that we are allowing. That defense is allowing points wise across per game anyway. So that's not anything different. What I think was a big factor was like the Panthers had nothing to lose in this. They already are not making the playoffs. They were 3-9. I don't think there was an actual chance for them to make the playoffs. So they had this weird like momentum. Like, we know we're not going to make the playoffs, but we're going to show them we're going to be a force to be reckoned with next year and to be a playoff contender by taking down a big team like the Eagles. Now, I think another big thing in addition to that was, fatigue. Like you said, we couldn't get them off the field. They're getting really fatigued. They are not able to get a break and then that kind of, dismantles the offense a little bit because it throws them off of a rhythm. It throws them off momentum. It doesn't allow for consistency across it because there's such a huge gap in time. I mean, the Panthers are having like 8, 9, 10-minute drives down the field. Even if it didn't get them any points, that's still exhausting for a defense, especially a depleted defense. When you got multiple safeties out, you have CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's got injured like 2-3 separate times in that game. It's detrimental to a defense. And I think what it was that what I hope it wasn't was like an underestimation of the Panthers. The Panthers have been on a weird roll. They've been playing like they've been winning, but they've been losing. They're holding the Chiefs to a field goal, which, to be honest, every single team has held the Chiefs to just a field goal to win because the refs are reffing their ass off. But they held the Bucks to almost a win into overtime, and the Bucks have beaten both us and Detroit. So take that into consideration.
They're building to something.
They're building into something. For sure. And I think, it was just one of those things where we might have not, taken it fully serious. Injuries obviously play a big role in it. It was just not our game. And, it was our first home game in like 3 weeks. So, different environment. You're used to this on the road kind of, mentality, and coming back home to the link, that's a lot of pressure. Despite it being home field advantage, you haven't been home in a while. You're expected to come up perform, put 2-3 touchdowns ahead of a 3-9 team. You skate away with a 6-point win. But again, so are other good teams. The Chiefs skate away with a field goal. The Bucks skate away with a field goal. This is not a team that should have been underestimated. But at the same time, this is a team where our defense should have shown the way
Yeah.
that they had against Baltimore, against a fourth-ranked blocking rate offensive line, both in the run and the pass game. Jalen Carter was a monster. We only got 1 sack on Bryce Young, but to be fair, the Chiefs also only got 1 sack on Bryce Young. So I think instead of this looking as such as a bad Eagles game, like a bad Eagles win, I think it was more of a good Panthers loss, if you think about it in perspective like that.
I agree. And I even kind of alluded to on my pod that like I would not sleep on this team because I think they're building towards something. Bryce Young, I think, can be a franchise quarterback. I know he has some size limitations that will kind of hurt him, but he can spin the rock, and he was money on 3rd and 4th down yesterday. They have the offensive line now to protect them. You get some more receiver help. Definitely could use another tight end. I think that they could potentially contend for that division at least next year. But then by like 2026, I think that they could be building towards something. So yeah, I agree with you. Like I think the Panthers are better than people think. I mean, they're not good, but they're building something. They're in rebuild, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It was just a weird win for us, not as weird if this was last year, but definitely this time around. I think, we take the time to look at this film and figure out what's going on. Kelton and Jalen and the entire offense need to get together, the skills players wise, and figure out what was going on. Why were there so few targets to these powerhouse wide receivers, one of the top tandems in the league? Why are they not getting targets? Why is there hesitancy to pass the ball? Why from our quarterback? Why did it happen the way it did? I think they're going to try to answer that question coming into this game because we're going against a great team next week. We're not, this was supposed to be a warm-up game to prepare us for a power team like the Steelers. Keith said, the more Jalen talks, the more I dislike him, dude. It's just so uncool and easy to unhinge. I don't know if I would say necessarily that. I just think, because of the team he's on the Eagles, he gets far more disrespect than I believe is actually deserved. Yes, this was a bad game, but to throw 108 yards and win, I'll take that over throwing 365 yards and losing like we saw with Josh Allen yesterday. Josh Allen, great quarterback, MVP contention, but he lost the game against the team that we beat. You can be great and lose games, and you can be mid and win games. People want to argue that with Patrick Mahomes all the time. So if you're going to have that argument, then put on the same criteria. And Jalen Hurts has been playing way better than Patrick Mahomes this year.
Yeah.
But Mahomes is getting the credit because his team's getting the wins despite him playing so shitty. Jalen, after being down, he went there like 10 for 13, 71 passing yards. Then it was like 58 rush yards and 2 scores after being down, like when the Carolina Panthers were up. He has the ability to make the plays where it counts. Yes, I think so many people want to focus on the negative because of the negative history that we had seen from him last year.
Yeah.
And we saw that as negative because we got such a high ceiling in the 2022 season that we expect nothing but greatness. And we're not going to get that all the time, especially with the contract curse. As soon as you get paid, you get injured or you suck a little bit that following year.
Yeah. And sorry. I also think too, because of the weapons he has and kind of like the vision of the team, like Jeffrey Lurie clearly wants an offensive oriented team. You see it in the coaching hires. You see it, through Howie Roseman's, how he's built this team. Like in theory, you would think Jalen Hurts could probably throw for 40, 200 yards and 30 touchdowns. That's just not who he is. And if he wins and you preserve him, like they did in the playoffs in 2022, where he didn't really have to do much in the Giants game and he didn't really have to do much in the 49ers game, and he can kind of just ball out when he needs to in the Super Bowl, then that's fine, but and the quarterback's always going to be under a microscope in the city. I mean, everything kind of gets blown out of proportion. There were a lot of Jalen Hurts haters salivating and saying like, see, this is why, you shouldn't have paid him and he's going to be the problem. And listen, like when he reverts to bad habits, he will hold us back. but I've seen the guy grow, and all those things that he needed to work on. And when he first started out, when he was drafted, I seen him come a long way, and you just got to trust his eyes, and I think he'll get right. And it's like you said, like um, there were a lot of games like this last year. It's sort of a rarity this year, which is a good thing, but I think that we'll be fine. I mean, there's a lot of winnable games, but they do have to get right for this Pittsburgh Steelers team, though.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go ahead and dive into the main topic of tonight, y'all. It is the rookie grades. So I went and looked at all of the draft picks that we had for the 2024 season, gave them a grade, gave them some reasons. Frankie, I wonder if you did the same or had any kind of variation. And I did this in order in which they were drafted. So I'm going to start with Quinyon Mitchell. And I think this is an easy grade. My man gets an A plus. Yes, I'm using plus minus system over here. This man gets an A plus. And my reason is he's been the GOAT corner in this league. He's called Quinyanamo Bay. Quinyanamo Bay, I think, was on a sweatshirt that he had going into the game.
Saw that.
Because he's locking down the number ones. He has started every game this season, and in all those games, about 500 plus defensive snaps. The most amount of receptions he's allowed in a game was 3, and the most amount of yards in a game, I think, was 26. Not a single number one wide receiver against him has had more than 3 receptions for 26 yards. And he's gone up against guys like Zay Flowers, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin. He held Terry McLaurin to absolutely dog shit nothing. Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Christian Watson, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, all these number ones, none of whom could achieve 30 yards or more or even a touchdown. He might not have the interception yet, which I think people are like, well, why doesn't he have an interception? Those are not easy to come by. But he has not allowed a single touchdown. He's the only corner in the league right now to achieve 500 plus defensive snaps while allowing 0 touchdowns. He's got 37 total tackles on the season, 10 pass deflections on top of these other accolades. Teams are not even throwing to his side of the field anymore. To be that good of a corner as a rookie, to make pro quarterbacks who have been in this league for God knows how long afraid to throw to your side of the field completely, that makes you something special. This man has been making his case for Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I think he absolutely deserves it. And that's why he gets an A plus. I don't care if he doesn't have the interception yet; it will come at some point. The whole allowing 0 scores and only 26 yards or less per game—that's what I care more about because that prevents touchdowns and helps gets us wins.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. This is an A plus for me. I mean, the guy has been a revelation. I mean, he transformed the 28th ranked passing defense into the second. I mean, the fact that he's coming in as a rookie, because going into the season, like I really like what the Eagles did in drafting Mitchell and Cooper DeJean because it was a huge issue last year, and I just knew to be patient. But the fact that he's able to come in like day one and be lights out, it's incredible. To me, I think he's been a revelation, and the fact that you can just put him out there and know that he's going to shut down whoever he's guarding, it's something that we haven't seen in quite some time, and it's been truly spectacular watching him become what he's become already, and who knows what he's going to become down the line. He could be even the best player on the team, given the way he's trending in like 2-3 years. Now, let me ask you about that. Do you think this is the greatest rookie season ever from an Eagle?
I don't know how prepared I am to answer that question. I think within the past decade, at least, probably. Because, it's a weird, he came from a non-powerhouse school. He came from University of Toledo. And people were wondering, okay, he's going against all these mid-level colleges. Is that going to are his skills going to translate to the NFL? And that answer has been an astounding 100% yes. His ability to prevent separation between himself and the receivers, if you actually look back at his plays, they're not getting any separation.
Yeah.
He is on them like white on rice. There's no ability to get any separation against him. He's got great hip motion. He's quick. He's, ability to make cuts between the inside and the outside very well. He's just an overall athletic kid, And we got to think about it. He's like 21, 22 years old. So he's got plenty of time in this league. And I think people were kind of underestimating him because he didn't come from like Bama or, anything like that. But he was he was projected to be the number 1 corner drafted, which I think he was. Mm-hmm. And I was very surprised he fell to us.
Me
I
too.
was expecting him to get like at least, within the top 12, but tackles were going off the board like crazy. I think within the past decade, yes, I would have to do a little bit more research to solidify, but I think yes, this is one of the best rookie performances within the past decade, from someone we drafted. I think he's got a ton of potential. He's gonna get that interception at some point. Again, as long as he's doing what he's doing and preventing touchdowns, that's all I give a shit about, really.
Yeah, and
Because
the reason why I say that is because I don't like because I've looked it up this morning, in terms of best Eagles players in their rookie year. Eric Allen, who should be in the Hall of Fame, had a really good rookie year. Um, Keith Jackson had a huge year his rookie year, tight end. But I don't think I've ever seen an Eagle play as a rookie at an all pro level. So that's why I kind of throw that out there. I know it's a little ambitious, but when you really think about it, how many Eagles rookies have come in and played at an all pro level? It's easy A
not
plus
that
for me.
many. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the second, which is our round two pick for number 40, Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. Now, I was kind of teetering on, between a couple grades, and I ended up giving him an A minus, and I'll show why. So obviously he had that injury to start the preseason, getting into a slow start into the starting lineup, with that preseason injury. And then to go in place at nickel of Avonte Maddox, who has been there for 6 years, had been a reliable person in that position, and having to get used to that because they weren't sure if they're going to put him at safety. They weren't sure if they're going to put him outside. Nickel was thrown out a lot come towards like the end of the preseason. But and he ended up sticking in one spot. And I think I mentioned this in the previous episode. They needed to have him focus on one position versus trying to be this Swiss Army knife at a bunch. I'd rather you be 100% at one position than be 33% at three positions because, to me, you can fill in other guys in those other positions. But if you are rock solid at corner, or nickel corner, you're starting that, I'd rather have you there than try to go in on the other positions. But anyway, he's made a name for himself in this league already. I mean, obviously there's the stereotype of Caucasian cornerbacks. We're seeing Riley Moss, we're seeing Ethan Bonner, we're seeing Cooper DeJean, break those stereotypes more so Moss and DeJean. But regardless of that, he is one of the highest graded corners in the league right now, according to PFF. And Quinion Mitchell is also up there. The thing is with Cooper DeJean is he's able to diagnose plays with like such precision that I haven't seen from a rookie nickel, I feel like, in a long time for Philly. He's made clutch tackles on guys like Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, and of course the boomstick he laid on Derrick Henry. And those are on crucial third and fourth down scenarios. Those are the scenarios that we were absolutely dog shit at last year.
100%.
And we've got a guy who is, being able to make those stops and forcing the turnover on downs or forcing the punt. That was our biggest issue last year. And something that we saw in this game was the inability to stop on third and fourth downs. And he's doing that. He had a bad game against Adam Thielen. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It's one game. I think he can bounce back from it. But going back to his overall grade, he's such a versatile player. Like he can play really well as a rushing nickel. He can drop back into coverage quickly, a hell of a tackler. And if need be, he can also field punt returns.
Yep.
His performance against the Panthers, it concerned me just like a little bit, but then again, so did the defense as a whole.
Yeah.
He didn't handle Adam Thielen too well. I'll give that to Thielen. I saw a comment on Twitter where someone was like, is Cooper DeJean's kryptonite other white guys? And I'm not going to lie, that made me chuckle a little bit.
That's funny.
But it's one game. I know he's going to look at the film and make those improvements. He's been, him and Mitchell have been the duo. I think people, again, kind of with the whole stereotype thing, kind of underestimating him. They were concerned about the injuries he had in college and the preseason, thinking, okay, is he going to be more of a special teams guy to field punts? But he's made a name for himself. He's stepped up. He's making excellent diagnostic reads on, the offense. He's being able to keep up with the motion man pretty well, despite if he's motioning, cutting in and out, like you've seen it against Jamar Chase. You've seen it against Zay Flowers. He's able to motion against those slot receivers very well and maintain, preventing separation between them. There's a couple of times, where there's a massive separation between him and the receiver, but not much. Not compared to what we had before. not compared to what our defense was like, in the past couple of years or so, minus 2022. He's got a high ceiling potential. And I think that's why I kind of give him an A- over a B+ because of what he's done so far versus like the one bad game he's had.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have him an A- as well for the things you just mentioned. Great fundamentals, great tackler. He's a very sneaky good athlete. And you
Quicker
brought
than
it up,
fast.
but
I was saying quicker than fast.
yeah, for sure. Um, so like you mentioned the fact that like you want him to be more specifically at like one spot, and I get that, but I do like having that latitude to play all these other different positions and do all these different things. I think he's going to be a fixture in this defense for many years to come, and he's going to be a fan favorite. I mean, fans already love him. Obviously, Kenyon and Cooper DeJean have embraced that as well, sort of the fanfare that they got. I think he's going to be a guy, just because you mentioned the rarity of having like a white corner. That I think that's resonated with a lot of people. And I think not only is he going to be a very dynamic player in the league, but I think he's going to be a guy that fans kind of, resonate with and like a lot. And you mentioned yesterday he got beat a couple times by Adam Thielen. And listen, Adam Thielen's definitely long in the tooth, but there's a reason why he's in the league. He runs really good routes. And
Mhm.
so that's something he'll pick up on because, like you said, he's got good fundamentals and he's only going to get better. And Vic Fangio's got to be happy having a guy like him for many years to come.
Yeah, I remember at the beginning of the season, he was like, he was on the Cooper DeJean hype, but humble and realistic about it at the same time. He was
Yeah.
like, at one point, like, he's not ready yet, but he'll
Yep.
get there. And he was absolutely right. He wasn't ready at one point. He had that one good preseason game. We were unsure of how he could translate as a starter, but we've seen him take Avonte Maddox's role, he's been an absolute liability in the slot for more than I would have liked to have seen him have because
Yeah.
he's demonstrated the ability to be a fantastic player. The fall off needs to be studied under a microscope. But anyway, back
He's
to
also been
DeJean.
injury prone too. Like
Yeah.
he tries to play physical with his size, and it's just it's really hard to do that. And I think the wear and tear is starting to the chickens are starting to come home to the roost in that regard. So I think that that's probably a part of why he's kind of fell off a little bit. But yeah, it's good to see Cooper DeJean fill that role though.
Yeah. I saw a statistic where it showed how Maddox has missed 36% of his career snaps due to injury. Oh, I dropped something.
Him and Goddard are the same way. I mean, it's kind of interesting that they're kind
Mm-hmm.
of like attached to
Best
the hip.
buds.
Yeah, I mean they spend a lot of time in the training room as well, but
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, for those two guys, I think they were steals. They were
Yeah,
absolute steals for us. They have so much time to develop. They've already shown that they can be great. My worry is that we're going to have too high expectations because of the performances we've been seeing from them. But I think we all need to take that with a grain of salt and show that there is the potential. It's not going to completely go away. It's still there. And we all need to take that into consideration, especially, we don't know what the defense is going to look like next year. We have so many free agents for the
it's true.
2025 season coming up. We're going to have to make some tough decisions, and, how they build around potentially new players is going to be a challenge in itself. But let's go on to our next pick. This is from the third round, the pick 94. This guy who kind of surprised me, Jalix Hunt, edge out of Houston Christian. Now, I've given him a B+. This guy has become a surprising playmaker. Not really used at all in the first 4 games. Then he became like a good special teams guy, which he still is. And then he's seen an increase in playing time with the injuries to Brandon Graham and Bryce Huff. And he just improves each week. Like, I think he's got like 1.5 sacks on the season since he started getting more significant playing time with those injuries. He's quick. He's able to put pressure. I think he's got multiple pressures on quarterbacks. And with the way we rotate our edge players, they're obviously not getting as many, snaps as our corners or our safeties or our linebackers. We rotate the edges out like crazy, or at least we did before the injuries. But this guy kind of surprised me. I didn't even know Houston Christian was a school when
Me
this
neither.
guy got drafted. I was like, what the is this like? It sounds like a prep high school. But again, it kind of shows that it doesn't really matter what college, not in all cases, but in certain cases, it doesn't matter what college you go to. If you can ball out and you can translate that to the NFL, that's what matters the most.
Yeah.
This guy kind of surprised me out. I think he's young, he's quick, he's athletic, he can get to the quarterback. Him and Bond combining on that sack against Lamar Jackson, that was really well smooth. You see him, sweep the tackle extremely quickly. And that's a fourth ranked pass blocking O line. That's not an easy O line to get past, especially for a rookie who has not had the level of playing time that he has. So that's why I give him a B plus with the, he's like that kid, that could ask for extra credit and get to that A mark. So I think, B plus for him sits well right now. We'll see how he does the rest of the season.
Yeah, I actually have him at a B, but at the end you brought up how he can elevate. I definitely see him I can see him elevate his grade as we get towards the playoffs and he gets more playing time. He was drafted as a project from Houston Christian. Didn't really see the field early on. He had some flashes in the preseason, but I knew I felt like you were going to have to be patient with him because he was kind of a flyer. A lot of the pundits were like, this is kind of a project pick, but he started to make a name for himself on special teams, and then he started to, even before BG's injury, start to be a fixture in the rotation at edge. And now that BG's out, he's going to get very valuable reps there. Nolan Smith, I think it has come a long way, but he's a guy that can only play a certain amount of snaps. So I think he's going to have to step up there. And then when you factor in BG and his presence, you gotta think BG is talking this guy up and giving him some pointers. That's very valuable experience. A guy with a very valuable experience can coach him up. But like you said, I think this grade's going to go up, and he's been a huge surprise. And I think this is a great pick for a guy who was supposed to be a project and is actually going to be a fixture as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think his development has gotten a lot quicker than it was expecting it to be. Like you said, because of those, we had such a good amount of edge rushers with plenty of experience in that position. So his snap count was, in my opinion, going to be very limited to, if anything at all, besides special teams. But, next man up mentality, this guy has proven that he can fulfill that. He's quick. You got Nolan Smith on the other side. You got two young, quick guys getting in there and being able to, shed the tackles, communicate with each other. I think he fit into a defense on like a last minute basis very well for, the timing, his, experience, the way he kind of initially just got shoved into the starting lineup or the starting rotation in various plays. But I like this guy. I really do. I think he will have a lot of time to develop. BG's going to retire, so he's going to get a chance to kind of prove himself and step up more. We're likely going to draft an edge or defensive end come this draft. And so there's going to be some competition, and he's going to want to show that, hey, I can be in the starting rotation. This is not just a fluke situation. I can be the guy to count on. And so far, I've not seen where he's been a liability at all. Someone in the stream can correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen an example where he has been a liability. He may not have like the numbers to show how good he is, but again, he was meant to be a development guy, and now he's out there getting significant reps and doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's like I said, like anything, just the fact that he's getting on the field and given where he started out from, is a huge win. And also think about going up against the Eagles offensive line in practice and learning from guys, like BG. I mean, it's just he's in a really good situation to develop, and that's why a team like the Eagles can take a flyer on him. A guy from Houston Christian, given his intangibles, I think that it's why they made the pick, and it's looking like a really good pick and a smart move by Howie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can't wait to see how much we see more of this guy later on as the season goes and as a career.
Yep.
Let's go ahead on our next pick. We have round 4, pick 127, Will Shipley, running back out of Clemson. Now, the grade I give him so far is a C plus. The main reason, purely sample size. I do feel bad for him because when they put him in, I think it was at the Giants game, with all the other second stringers, he had like a pretty damn good, incredible, like 20-plus yard run, shedding multiple tackles for a touchdown, but it got negated by a penalty. So far in the season, he's only got 50 rushing yards. He's primarily used in special team. He's accumulated 5 tackles with special team. I think he's got potential. He is just behind a good depth chart of players. Obviously, Saquon, best running back in the league right now. Man is balling out of his mind like crazy. Then you got Kenny Gainwell, who has been with us. He's reliable. He hadn't put up the most numbers so far this season. He's only got 1 touchdown, but he's reliable enough to get us yards after contact and to get us into good positions, and a good guy to give Saquon a break. I think what I liked about Will coming into this was, his shiftiness. He was making these incredible cuts against, ACC teams, and as a running back, it's not easy to do. Massive yards after contact. If you look at his Clemson highlights, he was, getting hit damn near, 2-3 yards from the line of scrimmage, but gaining only 12, 13, 14 yards on these plays. He has got talent. He's just behind again, a really good depth chart. I think at special teams, again, one of those situations where he hasn't been a liability. He is, reliable enough. I've seen against, the second stringers, gets a few yards here and there. But then again, at that point in the game, he's going against, the first team defenses because they're still out on the field. And you got Kenny Pickett behind you, so you don't get a whole lot of opportunity there compared to Jalen Hurts. So I think he just needs more time. He needs more time. He needs more development. Again, haven't seen a situation where he's been a liability. Again, one of those players where he's got things that you can't teach, quick cuts, things like that. As guys get older, they're not able to make those kind of hard cuts like they do. He's still able to do that like crazy. Has got good agility. Just need to see more of a sample size from him.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. I do have him as a C as opposed to a C plus. Like you said, he's buried behind two solid running backs, obviously. The MVP candidate, Barkley, and then Gainwell, who's been solid. He was a preseason darling. He had a really good first preseason game. He's proven that he can produce in the league. But it's a small sample size, and we'll see as time goes on once he gets more reps. But I mean, I like what I've seen, and he's made the most of the opportunities they're giving him. He just needs more. I mean, it's just simple as that. And you mentioned, his cutting ability, and I liked him coming out of Clemson as well. So in due time, we'll see what he can do, but he at least shows that he can play at the pro level, and he can make plays.
Yeah. I hope to see more of him as we get along into the next season, a couple seasons from now, if they still have him on there. I think he's got a lot of potential. All right.
You too.
Moving on to round 5, pick 152. This was Anais Smith, wide receiver out of Texas A&M. I have him as a D. Listen, this guy was almost a roster cut, managed to earn himself a spot despite early preseason hype around him. He got injured early on. I think he ended up starting on IR or something like that. I can't remember, but he's only logged 3 catches for 6 yards so far. Now, in a very crowded wide receiver room, I understand the lack of playing opportunities, but then again, he didn't really help himself to be able to earn more playing time in the preseason. Plus, when you have the 6th rounder and Johnny Wilson leading you in stats, it really does not help your case.
Nope.
We'll see how he does over the next season, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got demoted to the practice squad or gone on to another team unless he's got an absolute stellar camp next year.
Yeah, I'm in agreement in terms of everything you said, but I actually have him as an F. I mean, I totally get what you're saying in terms of being buried behind a bunch of guys. I mean, you're behind, AJ, Devontae, Dotson, Britton Covey even, and then Johnny Wilson. But whenever he's been able to get a chance, he hasn't really produced. And, I hope that he could pan out, but it looks like so far this might be the first whiff that Howie has. He just, it's one thing, like you said, like when you're buried behind a depth chart, but when you haven't shown that you could play at the pro level, it's kind of hard to not give you an F or at least a failing grade.
Mm-hmm. Going on round 5, 3 picks later, pick number 155, the one a lot of probably millennial Eagles fans were hoping we'd land. That was Jeremiah Trotter Jr., linebacker out of Clemson. I also have him as a C+, mainly, again, kind of the same reason for Will Shipley, sample size. He's been on good special teams and in scenarios where he's played a few defensive snaps. Again, just not a lot to suffice a higher grade. I could argue a B-. I just wanted more to see. He's got 10 total tackles on the season and a pass deflection. So probably I could move him up to a B plus. I'd say B or a B minus C plus range. But then when you have Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean actually being stellar and healthy, it's going to be hard to get some playing time. And then even if there needs to be a substitute, Oren Burks has the edge because he's been playing longer. He's backed up guys like Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw. So I would rather have the edge with Burks in that. I think he can develop into a great linebacker later on, but this year is his, truly getting his feet wet kind of year. I'm very hopeful for him. I loved watching his dad growing up, and he was a beast. Jeremiah Child Jr. was a beast when he was at Clemson. So I got faith in him. We'll see how the linebacker core looks like next season. I know we damn well better extend Zach Bond. Holy shit.
Absolutely.
If we don't, I'm going to be livid. Nakobe Dean has had his injuries. So if there's ever a situation like that again, you may need Trotter to step up. I think, the legacy of it, it's not so overhyped. We just need to see more. And that's not so much because of the inability to play. You're just, again, kind of similar to Will Shipley. You're behind a bunch of very good guys.
Yeah, I actually gave him a better grade than Will Shipley because he's been very productive. With the opportunities he's been given on special teams. I liked some of the things that he did in the preseason. And then obviously it's a great story. I mean, everybody loved the Axeman, Jeremiah Trotter.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, again, it's another situation where he's buried behind two productive guys right now. But I think they're going to give him every chance he can get to maybe venture into the starting lineup. Obviously, they got to extend Bond. They cannot make the same mistake they did with TJ Edwards.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, you cannot do that because we saw how that worked out last year. So, he'll hopefully get more time. Obviously fans want to see him. Fans would like to see him, be productive here. And work out here. But again, it's just being behind those guys. He's a bit undersized, but he does have the instincts like his dad, where he can kind of make up for it. So I have him as a C plus, and I really hope that he can get some more snaps in the defense. Maybe not this year, but definitely next year.
Yeah, I mean, people said the same thing about Nakobe Dean. People said the same thing about TJ Edwards when it came to being undersized. People said the same thing about Jason Kelsey as a center being undersized.
Yep.
Undersized doesn't mean under the ability to play. But,
yeah.
I like what I see out of Trotter so far. I just hope to see more. Going on, still in the 5th round, pick 172. We have Trevor Keegan, guard out of Michigan. I actually have him as an I, like an incomplete.
Yeah.
I feel like this dude's been a healthy scratch like every single week, and I'm not really sure what for. I wonder if they're just red shirting him, like almost like the pro level of red shirting, so you can develop behind one of the best O lines in the league. It's possible that might be the case. But I think every time I see him on the inactive list, I see him there as a healthy scratch. So I don't really know what's going on. So I got to give him an incomplete, basically.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that. I actually give him a C minus. Now, full disclosure, I don't know if you see the Michigan National Championship banner, but I am a Michigan fan. I did get to see him play, and he was a mauler at Michigan. And I'm grading him based on the player. I totally get the incomplete rating because he hasn't gotten on the field. But I did like what I saw in the preseason. The guy was moving people around. And one of the biggest knocks on him coming out of college was he can only play left guard. And that is a real thing because if you remember when Landon Dickerson was a rookie and they put him at right guard in his rookie year, he struggled mightily, but then they moved him to left guard and then he became what he's become. And it's just going to be really hard for him to get playing time behind an all-pro caliber left guard in Landon Dickerson. But he was a mauler at Michigan. I mean, Michigan was built through the offensive line. He was, was a first team All Big Ten and a second team All Big Ten and was with, a national championship team. He's got a great pedigree. Now he's getting great work with Jeff Stoutland. So, it's just unfortunate that he's just behind so many guys. And I don't, like I said, he's had issues at right guard. So if Mekhi Becton decides to test free agency, I think Tyler Steen would be that guy. So to me personally, I would like to see him go elsewhere. I think he could be a hidden gem for another team who could use a left guard. I mean, there's lots of bad offensive lines in the league. I think he could be a
Mhm.
solid starter for a team. I don't know if he could be a pro bowler, but I think he could be a solid starter for a couple years for a team. He's behind a really good player in Landon Dickerson, but he has the Michigan pedigree, the national championship pedigree, and he's worked with Jeff Stoutland. I think he could be something good for another team, but um, maybe I just because I'm a Michigan fan, I kind of wanted to give him a grade, but I think he can be a good player. I just think that it just might be just a numbers game, and I think he could probably be something elsewhere. It's just going to be hard to get on the field when you have Landon Dickerson.
Yeah, and I know he's had his like injury struggles, but like you said, Tyler Steen's been fulfilling those roles, or they're switching Mekhi Becton over and putting Tyler Steen at the right guard. Um, so yeah, it's just hard for him to get on the field. I totally get that. Um, this pick definitely interesting to see so far. Round 6, pick like 170, 190 something. I can't remember. I forgot to put the
I think it's
number. But
185.
Johnny, 185. Johnny Wilson, wide receiver out of Florida State. Now I have him as a B minus. Being 6'6" definitely helps out with this. You can't teach height. And he's got good hands. I just wish Jalen Hurts wasn't overthrowing his tall ass a lot of the time. And he's got, there was one game where he had one catch, but it was 5 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
So, again, points are the thing that matters at the end of the day. That's what gets us wins, not number of receptions or yards or, almost shoulda, coulda, woulda moments. It's points, it's touchdowns, it's field goals, it's points that get us the win at the end of the day. And he was able to do that. He got a touchdown before Grant Calcaterra did. And Grant's been on the team with us for 3 years now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people rejected him to go as a tight end, but I like him as a wide receiver because he has such reach over. Again, it's not even his fault where these catches are not occurring. He's being overthrown somehow, which I don't fucking know how that's happening. But I think, for definitely a 6th rounder, he's pretty good. I would like to see more opportunities, which he, in an unfortunate way has gotten those opportunities because of injuries.
Yeah.
But I don't think again, one of those situations where sample size isn't huge, but he's demonstrated great upside. Hasn't shown any liability scenarios because the incompletions are just overthrows.
Yeah.
I would like to see our quarterback, put it in his hands and see what he can do. He's stretched for some catches. He's caught a touchdown so far. So he's not bad. I just think Jalen Hurts needs to help him be more effective by, being the quarterback to that quarterback wide receiver combination of, throw and catch.
Yeah, I actually gave him a C, but I do think he could actually beef up that grade. He provides something that the Eagles don't really have. I mean, outside of AJ Brown, and I think AJ Brown's like 6'2", like on a good day. I think people underestimate because he's got such a big frame. Like they kind of underestimate that he's not as tall as people think, but he does provide the size that you would like. And again, another guy is just having a hard time getting on the field, but I think you could see his role increased in some red zone situations. I'm curious to see if they try to implement him more because Dallas Goedert's injury. But I do like him. I do like the size that he brings, and I like the fact that he, at least unlike Anais Smith, was able to produce and show some signs of potential. The size definitely is something that we're not accustomed to at that position. I'm curious to see if they can utilize him more as the season goes on.
Yeah, I definitely think, the injury, didn't had to miss a game or two or so. But again, I don't think it was much to impact his ability to play, or to continue to develop. I like the guy. I didn't, when I saw he was like 6'6", 6'7", I was like, holy shit, he's just gonna outreach everybody. But Jalen has got to get that ball in his range. Even jumping, it's so overthrown that even when jumping, it's still it looks like it's a solid 6 feet above his hands. Jalen has got to get them. They need to practice more one-on-one on understanding the height discrepancy between his other wide receivers and this guy. He's got a good 4 inches, pretty much 4 to 5 inches on most of the receiving core. He's got like a full foot almost on Britton Covey. So, you got to learn to make those connections a lot more fluid. All right. Technically, there's one more guy on this list. Round 6, 190, Dylan McMahon, center out of NC State. Gave him an F-. He didn't even make the final roster.
Yeah, I gave him an F as well. Didn't make the team. I believe he's with the Rams on their practice squads, not really doing much. Yeah, it's just a numbers game. I mean, these things happen. Hopefully he can pan out, for his sake. But yeah, there's really nothing to say here.
Yeah. All right. Before we end things off, Frank, do you have any final thoughts on this rookie class?
I think we can put to bed the argument that Howie can't draft. Howie kind of got cute in 2019 and 2020 with some certain picks. Taking. I mean, Andre Dillard kind of made sense, but unfortunately for him, he got hurt his first year. He struggled a bit, and then he actually ended up not being that bad of a player. It's just the fact that Jordan Mailata was just so good. And then taking J.J. Arcega-Whiteside with the second-round pick over DK Metcalf, and then obviously taking Reagor over Justin Jefferson in 2020 was bad. But 2021, he had a home run with Devontae and Landon Dickerson, and then 2022, getting Jordan Davis, who had a down. He's been getting better. Had a down game this week. But Cam Jurgens has been a great pick. And in 2023, Jalen Carter's been a game record, and adding Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, A players. I give this grade an A. It's really set up the future nicely with our first 3 picks. Mitchell, could be an All-Pro for many years to come. Cooper DeJean, his versatility is going to be very valuable in this defense. Jags Hunt's going to develop. Guys like Will Shipley, Trotter Jr., and Johnny Wilson all have potential. I'm high on Trevor Keegan, but I just don't know if he's going to get opportunities on this team. I think he can get some opportunities elsewhere because I do think he could be a hidden gem. But overall, other than Anais Smith, I think this has been a really good draft.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think how he hit the head on the nail with it, or nail on the head with this one. You get 2 of the best corners in the league, one in round 1 and one in round 2, when both were expected to be early round 1 picks. He did great taking advantage of the Rams picking an offensive lineman, I think, or something like that. Got Washington on the phone real quick. You see the video of him. He trades down to get the 40th pick, a couple of picks in the later rounds to get him. And even with those picks, he was able to monopolize them and get guys like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Will Shipley, Johnny Wilson. I think, obviously with the exception of McMahon and Anais Smith, yeah, he really nailed this draft. I like what these guys bring to the table. I love the Mitchell and DeJean picks. I honestly thought DeJean was going to go to the Green Bay Packers. And then when I hear his name called, I literally freaked out. I was like, holy shit, we got Cooper DeJean. It was absolutely nuts. I think he really hit the nail on the head with this one. He's learning what the impact of good drafting makes on a team. 2022 to now, playoffs every single year. We're in the contention for being in the Super Bowl this year around. One kind of awkward win, I don't think is good enough to define what this team has been doing all season, because everything that they're being criticized against, they just prove them wrong. They had a terrible defense, and they go out and hold teams to 16 or less points.
It's night and day from last year.
They're not playing great guys. They're not playing great teams. And they go and they beat Washington. And they go and they beat Baltimore. The Rams just beat the Bills, and we beat the Rams. Yes, we had 2 bad losses to Atlanta and the Bucks. The Bucks are kind of mid, but there's something about the Bucks that the Bucks are our kryptonite.
Yeah,
because we are. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say them and the Seahawks, because I don't think we've beaten the Seahawks in like 10 years. Yeah, Todd Bowles has had his way with Jalen Hurts. It's just something that if we play them down the line, Jalen Hurts is going to have to really step up for that. But I agree with you there. Atlanta should have been a W, and then the Buccaneers game was just obviously not a great game. But
It's
it
our
turned out to be the
kryptonite.
best thing to happen to us because we're on a, was it 9-game winning streak now? So,
Mhm.
you know, eh, they made good adjustments, and we're in a good spot now. And I think that you can't just freak out after one game. It's not like last year where it was like this was the whole entire year dogfights with inferior teams. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. Like you just came off an unbelievable high beating the Ravens, and then you're playing the woeful Panthers with nothing to play for. It's kind of hard to get up for that game. So
Mhm.
I'll somewhat give them a free pass, but there are some things that they work on. Like I mentioned, the first quarter offense. So I feel good about our chances. I feel good getting the 1 seed. Detroit's got a brutal schedule coming up, so we'll see how that
Mhm.
shakes out
We do need to win out. We have to win
for
out,
sure.
and Detroit has to lose 2 of their games. I think Minnesota has to lose 1 last time I checked. It's not gonna be an easy path to the number 1. Is
No.
it possible? Technically, yes.
Yes.
Is it super possible? Not really. But, if the stars align our way and, we, get to that point, it's very possible. So here's an interesting thing before we go. So this is the 4th 9-win streak that we've had, right?
Yep.
The years that we've done it, I think was like 1950, 1960, where we won the NFL championship, and 2017, where we won the Super Bowl. So just throwing that out there for everybody, ending on a note. Frank, appreciate
Yeah,
you
absolutely,
joining
man.
me in this collab. I think we, had a lot of similarities, good things to discuss about.
For sure.
I look forward to hearing your episode about, the next few games that we got going on. Can't wait for a listen. And appreciate you doing this collab with me.
Absolutely, man. This was a good time. It was going for what, an hour and 2 minutes. It didn't even really
Mhm.
feel like that. It was a good conversation. I think we got a good chemistry, and yeah, I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Likewise, my man. Thank you again.
Absolutely.
Those who are watching, thank you for joining us. I'm Michael Roscoe. This is Frank Mattis. We are shows Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast, and Let's Be Frank. Both of them are presented by Old City Sports Network. You can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, a lot of these social media accounts. You can find us all there. Once again, thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you all next time. Hold on a second.